Hey everyone, let's do some sketching in a sketchbook. Not this one, a digital one. Not this one, a mobile one. This one. Alright, Sketchbook mobile, Sketchbook on the tablet, on the phone. I think they're relatively similar, but this should give you sort of an intro to Sketchbook mobile. Whenever you open a sketchbook, usually it opens your last used document or drawing. So let me tap here and let's go back to gallery. And I'm gonna pinch to zoom out, and just a quick walkthrough. Up here you have your folders, or I think Sketchbook calls them albums. You can switch them. You can put different things into them if you want to. You can add a new album where you can bring your other drawings in. Let's say from here, I'm gonna also bottom left corner for select. I'm gonna select these two. I'm gonna say move to, and then I can just simply drag them into this new area. And because I don't want them to be here, I can take them, move to, I'm gonna drag them back to sketches, and now I have them in here in sketches. Since we're talking about selections, you can select these two, and here are the things that you can do with them. In this case, share and delete. I don't want to do any of those, so I'm just going to tap the X. This United one, you can rename from there. You can give it a name, whatever you want. Just give it a name and be done with it. And then if you hold it longer, then the delete album button appears, and you can simply tap that and nothing happens apparently. You have to tap it with your finger. Yes, there we go. And now it's gone. So let's get back to sketches. One more thing, you can select one. It doesn't open it yet, it just zooms in a little bit so you can still look around. And from here, technically this is selected. And if you tap this, then it shows you can share it, do a slideshow. You can duplicate it, export it as a PSD, or delete it from here as well. And one other thing that you can do here, I don't know how useful you will find it, you can zoom in with a zoom in pinch again, and you can just nicely look around. It's like a gallery, right? Like a zoomed in gallery. And then you can zoom out again. Yeah, that's it from here. So I'm going to pinch it to go out, and I'm going to use this plus button, which just adds a new document within the folder that is selected now, or album that is selected now. So let's make a new document. One thing here, you can make a document from an image that you already have on your iPad, or what sort of other Android device you're using. iTunes, no idea, don't really care, to be honest. And if you have a drawing, you can also scan a sketch. Basically, it's taking a picture and it's cleaning it up quite nicely for you. So let's make a new sketch. I'm gonna tap that. I like to have it at 3000 by 3000. I don't know if that is visible, probably not. So you can tap here to lock them together, or you can choose a preset. I usually like to work with 3000 by 3000. Let me bring it down here again. So I'm going to just tap create now, and we're going to have a 3000 by 3000 document. And I don't know if I'm just going to go by the assumption that you never saw Sketchbook before, neither the desktop nor the mobile version. So just to help you out, these are the brushes that you're using on this side. This is the brush puck and the color puck. We'll go into this in a second. And here you have the layers, and then here is your toolbar with all the tools. So since we're mostly drawing, let's talk about brushes. You can select them from here, as I said, or you can select them from up here as well. If you tap it once, you have the sort of the same thing as here, with the same brushes that you can select through them. If you pull to the right, you can make your brush size much bigger, or you push it back to the other direction and you can make it smaller. Like if you want to make it smaller, you don't really have a lot of real estate here. So usually I just blow it up all the way, and then you have much more space to come back and make it smaller if you want to. I think it was 1.5. Yeah, it was 1.5. Okay, and then if you pull it up and down, you can also see sort of behind the pencil, there is like a see-through area and a non-see-through area. This is the opacity of your brush. So you can push it up 100, so it's going to be super dark and opaque. And if you pull it down to, let's say, 18, it's going to be much lighter. I like to have it around, let's see, 90, I think, maybe a little bit lower. Something like that. Yeah, that's sort of nice. Okay, and then here you have your colors. Tap it, and you can choose between hue, saturation, lightness. It's my favorite because here you choose your colors, here how saturated it is, and here you have the lightness of it. You can choose it from here or nicely from this circle as well. You have also RGB, but who can calculate that? Not really. So here you have your color palette. On the other hand, you also have Copics here. If I tap that, and I just like Copics. Ooh. You have the Illustrator or the design, just like on the desktop, you can switch between them. And then you have the main color groups, and then within them, you can choose your favorite colors that you want to use. And I see I zoomed in a little bit. Let me zoom out. Okay, I guess before we continue with everything, just because we're not on the desktop, we have some gestures that we can set up. So first thing that I like to use is I select a pencil or brush, and then I select an eraser. And then with the double tap here, it switches between the two. So it means if I'm drawing something, I double tap, and then I can immediately erase. So it just makes your life quite a bit faster. It's quite nice. And then you can also say, hey, I want the eraser to be a little bit bigger, so you can erase more. Just like that. For the rest of the gestures, you tap this little button here, and you go to Preferences. And then here you have all your gestures set up. You have Show Tooltips is just good to have. Tap to hold color picker. Let me show you what this does. So I'm going to switch to eraser, and I'm going to just do a different color. So I tap here, and as I move this around, I hold it over the color, and that color is going to be picked. So I can use that one now. Same thing, I can choose this gray, and I can use this gray color. Or when I moved my finger a little bit, there you go. So there's the gray color. One thing before we go back here that I forgot to show you is you can also pull on the brush up and down. Up and down is the luminescence, so it becomes bright or dark. I say all the way black, and then we go up. And left and right is the saturation. All the way to the right is fully saturated, all the way to the left it's gray. And then you can adjust this to your heart's desire. Okay, let me jump back here to the preferences. Rotate canvas is obviously this with your fingers, and pinch to zoom in and out, like you're probably used to this already from all the other apps. Then we have a two fingers should zoom in to as big as the canvas is. 3 fingers, you have gestures, you have up, we have colors, you can go back to color or Copic, same thing. Down, we have the brushes in this case, and left we have undo, and right we have redo. And these can be obviously changed, so let us come back to preferences. So here you can pick whatever you want from here to add to these gestures. I think, yeah, multitask gesture is what I said with a double tap, so that's good. Pen mode, I think, is that you're not drawing with your finger. Let me see if, yeah, exactly. So definitely have pen mode on, because you do not want to draw with your fingers if you have at least an Apple Pencil or a fitting stylus for your device. So these, I would say, go through, see what's working here for you. Also, something I forgot, you have the corners. So I have undo in this corner, the double tap it, and this corner is redo, like whichever. And sometimes I just tap there because that's the most comfortable for me. With the brushes, as I said, if you tap here, you have the library or you have the settings, and within the library you have the groups, Legacy, Texture, Essential. You tap one pencil there, and then you can pin the whole group here to your left. So you don't always have to open this one, but I like this one personally. Within the settings, you have basic, which is size and opacity, but you also have advanced options where you can change the pressure, you can change the nib and what sort of texture the nib has. You can also add randomness if you want to. So that's something that you would need to experiment yourself a little bit to see where it leads you and what sort of interesting brushes it gives you. I want black, just to be sure. And that was sort of this part. Oh yeah, something else. So I told you about how to make the brush bigger and smaller here. You have these two pucks as well. This is for size and this is for opacity. So you sort of can do the same thing from here. So yeah, you could take this away if you want to, and I'll show you in a minute how to do that as well. Let's go through our toolbar now. We have undo, redo, of course, as before. Then we have selections, and you have a magic or lasso tool, which you select something. You can say if you want it to be normal, if you want it to be additive. So you select something, you make new selection that just adds and adds and adds. You can also subtract. So with every new selection, you take away from the previous selection. I like it normal, to be honest. You can have a rectangular selection tool with the same option, of course. And you have sort of a magic tool which selects everything around the drawing. So you can see if I zoom in and if I go back to my brush tool and if I start drawing everything outside of the selection, you can draw. Double tap. And to deselect, there's always this here. So you will have to select this and tap deselect. This is the tool for moving it around. So just tap it and now you can move around your selection. If you want also like incrementally a little bit more precise. And this one, the last one, is to invert your selection. So right now I would be only be able to draw on the outside, and I come here, invert it again, and now I can only draw on the inside, as you can see. Okay, deselect. This is for moving whatever is selected or whatever is on the canvas. And then we make a rectangular selection around this and go here. And if you deform it like this, give it a little bit of perspective, but you can also warp it or zoom around within it. So it's helpful for that. Then again, you can do the more precise movements as well. You can flip it vertically and horizontally, and you can rotate it both directions. And done. So that was that. Fill tool, you sort of know how a fill tool works. It fills areas with the same color. All right, we also have tolerance for our fill bucket, which means if I push the tolerance all the way up, no matter where I click, everything is going to be black. So we don't want that, but if we bring the tolerance down, you will also see the distance is much bigger now here than it was in the previous boxes. Then we have the gradient tool. I'm just going to do a new layer and then fill this with a gradient, but you guys sort of know how gradients work. There you go. I think with this one we flip. But here you can adjust the gradients by tapping on this one, and then you can choose a different color there. That's for gradient. You can do also a radial fill. This is happening now because it's only taking the area of the yellow. So if I come back and I do the radial, I do the radial fill here, it should work quite nicely. And it's the same principle. So undo. Then we have the rulers. The rulers they rule. Haha. So you move it around, draw a line. You can, with 2 fingers, you can sort of rotate it, give it a different direction. But every time you tap a ruler down here, it will also tell you how to use it. So that's pretty nifty and cool. This is a really nice and new addition because this is a ruler that you can adjust as you want it. So it's not just going to be straight. You can have really nice curves with it and live out your straight curve line fantasies, whatever they are. And then you have your typical ellipse, which you can squeeze and move. Let me draw one here. You can make it smaller from here, squeeze it a bit more. Double tap always returns it to original form. or back to the center. From here you can rotate it as well. You can also rotate it with your fingers and move it with your fingers, but it's a little bit less precise. At least that's how it feels to me. So double tap. I'm going to delete this layer and I'm going to clear this layer. There we go. So now you could make your nice little circles, unless you move it and then you can't. But yeah, that's that. Really fun symmetry. So whatever you draw here happens there as well. You can do vertical or horizontal, or if you want, you can do both. But then you can also do just a multi-symmetry, and then you set up how many sections. So this is really fun if you want to be artistic, or if you want to design fenders for cars. That's also a good option for that. Yeah, these are... You can draw quick lines with these. Nobody ever uses these, so don't worry about that. Like I don't think you will use these at all. No stress. Let me clear this page again. This button is smoothing. So if I push it all the way down and I draw something, and then I push it all the way up and I try to draw same thing again, you see it flicks back a little bit and makes all the lines just a little bit smoother. It also, if you make a circle, you can see it tries and closes that circle nicely for you. And without it, I usually, let me see, without it, see how much wobbly the line is. So if you want to have nice lines, this one can help you with the smoothing. Clear. This is the typical add an image. I had this robot here. And now you can do the same things that you do usually with adjustments. So you can move it around. You can flip it and you can rotate it. There we go. And then we don't need this anymore. Perspective tools. As always, 1-point perspective. We have 2-point perspective. And we have 3-point perspective. So this is basically setting up the same perspective, but a little bit with different lines, because you still have the really sharp box here. If I draw it here, but sort of you have with these lines you have more of an indication how your box is going to look if you want to draw a box, let's say somewhere here, right? So this will sort of tell you, and you can also follow these lines and draw your box straight there. Magnet is off now, so it means that I can draw however I want, and these lines only help me visually, so they won't snap to it. If the magnet is on, they will snap to it again. And with the lock perspective guides, you can't move it anymore. So once you set up your, let me switch back to, I like this sort of mode better. Let me clear this out. So now your perspective lines are locked, and you can draw in perspective with a snap on, and you don't have to worry about accidentally touching and moving them. So it's quite nice and helpful. And you can also turn your perspective lines on and off. Like I like to see them, because I also like to have my magnet off, just because I like to draw with my own hand. Not that I don't draw with my own hand usually. But yeah, and let me turn it on, and it's off, and lock off. And then we turn this off. Text, you can add text. I would never add text, because I like to draw and not to write. Text. Enter, and you can probably adjust it from here, but I'm not going to go into this, not interesting for us. And you can also record from here. You tap it, you draw something, how a nice little house, whatever this is, and then you stop it again, and then you can save it. Save to your photo library, or just discard. We don't need this anymore. And then let's talk about the layers. Let me erase everything. Clear, delete, and clear. So let's talk about the layers. You tap a layer, you have a whole bunch of functions there. Let me draw something into this layer, double tap. There we go, something like that. Tap it, you can copy, tap, paste. The only thing, you move it around, same options here again, we recognize them, done. It pastes back on the same layer. So if you want to paste it on a new layer, you make a new layer with that plus, tap and paste, move it, done. And now if I take this away, it's on the new layer. So I'm going to delete the new layer, and the cut works the same way, it just takes it out. It always copies and cuts the selected area, so I don't have to say if you have something selected, it will do that. Duplicate simply duplicates that layer, deletes it. If you have several layers, let me duplicate and just make a new one. You can merge one down by one, so like this. Let's step down, back, or merge all of them together into one, and then you have all the layers here. Lock layer is if you have an underlay layer. So if I tap this, let me unlock it for a second. I put a lower opacity, then I lock it, and then I can draw over it and follow this as a guideline. And I don't have to worry about drawing over my previous thing because it's locked. So close, let me unlock this. And we have also adjustments here. Adjustments are really good. You go to color balance, you go to shadows, which means it's going to affect the darkest areas. So I'm just going to make my shadows into the blue. There we go towards blue. I'm going to make my midtones this magenta and a little bit of blue, but more magenta. And my highlights I'm going to push towards yellow and red. And you can see that obviously that is going to affect the midtones as well, but my shadows stayed nice and blue. So this is how easy you can adjust your colors at the end with the color balance. HSL is hue, saturation, lightness. So with the hue, you can push it around and just change your color. Saturation will saturate or desaturate, so push it back towards gray. And lightness is make it darker or make it lighter. Done is accepting it, but I don't want to accept it. You also have blending modes. So this is the typical, what you have in Photoshop or what you have in other options. If you don't know Photoshop or other options, I am going to run through that relatively quickly now. We have normal, darken. You will see the effect when you move this around. See, so behind it, you can sort of see through it. And let me show you also the rest of the options like that. Multiply is also a draw through effect. Color burn is really burning it. Color burn and really linear burn. The thing is, I don't really know what does what. I just know how to use them. And like I could do a different tutorial. If you guys say, okay, let's do a tutorial on what these blending modes are. I can go through them once with you. But I would say, just as before, experiment with them, and you will see what you can do with them. Okay, so let's erase this, and then color label is just if you have several layers, you can say I want a red one, and then you know for yourself what the red one is always lines, and then you have two yellows before. Those are two different color layers. One thing here, if you tap this, you switch from the layers to the palettes that you could see in the colors as well. I never use this, to be honest. I'm always on the layers. And then one final thing that speeds up things for you quite a bit, well, if you like to use this, is, I don't know if you see it here, but yeah, you should see it. There's a little puck thing here. I press it and you have these options. And this is sort of a drag thing. So once again, I have my eraser. Before, you didn't always have this double tap option that switches between eraser and pencil. So I draw something. You could also just drag to the left, and then you have the eraser. Drag back to the left, and then you have your color pencil again. So these are shortcuts for you to use. Drag to this one. I have actually no idea what this does. I never understood what this is. But you have a color picker, so if you don't want to wait around with your finger and press it and hope for it to appear, you can also just drag up and pick that color and then draw with that one. Drag up again and pick a different color and draw with that one. You can hide the puck, as I said in the beginning. If you don't use it and it's in the way, you can nicely hide it, also bring it back. And then the last one is whenever you're drawing, especially, doesn't matter what you're drawing, but you draw something. I'm going to draw a very quick and ugly robot. It's always good to flip your canvas, because then you can see what the mistakes are. And then if you do that all the time, it will look good from both sides, no matter if you flip it or not. And here you can sort of hide. If you want to work minimally, so I would say then you can also hide that one. And then here you can do a quick, you have brushes, your colors, and your layers, and everything else is hidden. You still have to make the brush size bigger or smaller and the opacity, so you can still do your drawing and then just say, oh, let me pick a color. Well, usually you have your finger here. That's how I just like drawing with one hand. But you can quickly switch between and choose whatever you want. Come here, make a new layer, keep on drawing, come down again, make a new layer, keep on drawing. You say, okay, let me merge this one down. Just keep this one pressed all the time, and then you can do merge down everything. Yeah, that's pretty much it that I think I can tell you. The rest is just you having fun and exploring and experimenting. So I'll use the pencil for drawing. So in this part, I just want to quickly explain how I do the drawing. So I'll speed up the drawings and just concentrate on the explaining parts. I'll double tap to erase. Oh, I'll use the lasso tool. And then this one to move it around a little bit. Once I'm done with that, I decide to make everything a little bit bigger. Just like this. Push the opacity of the layer down, create a new layer, and start doing my line work with a different brush. I make a new layer and make sure to later erase the areas that I don't want this brush to touch. Once we are done and satisfied, we can simply merge down. Once I'm done with the lines, create a new layer and put it below my line layer by dragging it down there. I want to take a new color and just fill in the area. I make a new layer for each element apart, so this will be the cushions inside. And now I can lock the pixels on the layers and I can start painting over them. I find the background to be a bit annoying that it's so white, so I'm gonna come down here, tap the background layer and just bring the grayness a bit and maybe bring it towards the blue just a little bit, not too much, because the orange will work nicely with the blue together. There we go. So now we have a nice gray background. And then to top it off, we just add another layer below everything. We can sort of make a selection, and this can be our shadow layer. Take a brush, whichever you like, and add some black. Let me step back a bit. Deselect, and I do like to bring down the opacity a little bit. There we go. And that was pretty much it for this video. I hope you don't mind that it got a little bit longer, but I wanted to cram everything in there to share with you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned from it. Yeah, leave me messages. What other sorts of videos would you like to see or what you would want to know? And yeah, see you in the next video. Until then, have a great time, everyone. Bye-bye.